Welcome once again to the newest edition of 3 In, 3 Out. I am your host, Clinton Bonner. Come on, follow me out on Twitter at Clinton Bon. I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brandon Schultz. Follow him on Twitter at Seahawkers Pod. If you're new to 3 In, 3 Out, it is the most unique Seahawks recap podcast out there. You can only find it on Field Goals, so go and subscribe the whole thing already. Brandon, it is always a better Monday when it is a Victory Monday, and Victory Mondays are always better Victory Mondays when we beat down the stupid 49ers. How you doing today?
Victory Mondays are always better when it's a victory to talk about on Monday. But yes, it's especially nice when it's over the 49ers. Man, oh man. And on the road, and after a half of football where, man, after those first few drives, you watch that game and you go, ooh, is this going to be okay? Oof. And the 49ers fans and the crowd are going nuts because things are going just fine for them. But our Seahawks turned it around.
Yeah, they certainly did. And, it is 3 In, 3 Out. So we're not going to talk about vintage Russ too much, but you got to give the love, the pirouette, the whole thing. I love the tuck and run, right? The tuck and run for the touchdown. Russ is like, I'll do it my darn self. So you got some vintage 2013, 2014, 2015 Russ in this game. Beautifully done. We'll get into the nooks. We'll get into the crannies. But one thing I want to say that, in the opening soliloquy here is you said, another road game. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I think we might be a better road team. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the better uniform combination. We get to wear the sharp whites. I'm not sure, but we're pretty good on the road, Brandon.
Yes, and we're going to have to see maybe a little bit bigger sample size to see how this plays out, whatever it is. If it's more of a focus, it feels more like business. They know they're not going to have the 12s there to back them up, and so they know that it's all on them. So, yeah, stop relying on us fans, team, and just go get it done.
Yeah, you don't need the 12th man when you got the right 11 out on the field. We're going to talk about some of those 11, some of those all 22s and the whole thing, right? And we'll start, the beautiful part about the whole thing, Brandon, is those who are new to 3 In, 3 Out. Well, welcome right in, dive right in, 2 feet first. But we don't have a lot of rules, but we do have one big rule on 3 In, 3 Out. However, I can never remember it. So I got to phone a friend. Brandon, what's our one rule on 3 In, 3 Out?
I don't know how you keep forgetting this. It's why we have one rule and only one rule. So it makes it easy to remember. It is when the Seahawks win, we start with an in.
We get to start with an in. Hit the button. Do the button thing. There's the button. There's the button. That's my Bobcat Goldthwait. All right. So we are starting with an in. And I want to title this one Coming into Form. Now, in your pregame show, which you had told me before, that the great Wilson Kahn, a current Princeton grad. That's not right. He's in his first year. Student. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, he's an alumni student. He's an alumnus student over in New Jersey over there, but he's from Seattle. Real good dude. He used the terminology Shane, the main brain, in your pregame show, which came out on Field Goals, which I loved. I love that. I love it. And when I say coming into form, it's quarter 2. It's 7-0 Niners. There's about 2:46 to go. So, if people watch the game and watch it again, you know what this drive's about. It's 7-0 with a few minutes to go in the second quarter. You know how this drive ends. And everybody is loving on Alex Collins, and deservedly so. I am the biggest Chris Carson lover in this freaking multiverse. And hat tip, Collins looked better, deserved the touches, was amazing. However, so it's our first legit drive. Collins is looking great. He gets those 3 plays in a row, moves us right down, and it sets up this 3rd and 1 at the San Francisco 44. And you're like, cool. Collins just got the ball 3 times in a row. It's 3rd and 1. It's smash mouth football time. Just move the chains already. Let's go. Let's pound the rock. Shane, the main brain, instead pulls out this tight formation. 2 tight ends with Lockett stacked left, Metcalf stacked right, but they're only maybe 2 yards flanked from the ends there. Really tight formation. Collins in the back. They motion Disley left to right. Play action fake to Collins. Good protection. And all of a sudden, Russ The world is his oyster. He has layers of open dudes. He's got Colby, Parkinson out in the flats, going right to left on screen, wide open. No, decides to float it a little bit further for Metcalf, goes for like 29 yards. It's the big chunk play, big first down. That formation and when we say we want to run the ball, we want to establish the run, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we do. And it's because on 3rd and 1, you want to have the trickery and the gagoons, if you will, to call the right play, to get the chunk play. That is Shane, the main brain, executed beautifully. And this one, Metcalf caught.
I was going to say that Metcalf on this this Sunday, man, 4 catches out of 8 targets. Yeah. And I'll give him a pass on one of them because it was a really tough catch going to the sideline. It was probably the shortest one of them, but it was maybe the most difficult to catch. The long one down the right side, though, he should have had that one. But yes, this one here, 28 yards. It was tied for the longest play of the day, along with the Alex Collins play on first down to start this drive. So they get 2 28-yard plays on this drive leading to the touchdown. DK takes it in, just barely breaking the plane of the goal line with the nose of the football. And maybe, if he hadn't covered up the nose of the football with his hand, then maybe that gets called back. Maybe it's for the better that he was carrying the ball that way, and that way they can't take the touchdown off the board. And yeah, it was because of that 3rd and 1 that made that possible.
Yeah, it was a beautiful drive. It just, all of a sudden, this team's weird, right? And this is just who they are. But all of a sudden it clicked. And it wasn't like, and maybe it's the Collins factor, and maybe we'll talk more about that, but it just, all of a sudden we had protection. All of a sudden we had fluidity. All of a sudden the good plays playbook came out, and we're using the middle of the field, right? So it was all these things, which led to a beautiful drive. And so wanted to call that out because down 7-0, obviously we did a great job just keeping it there. And then when it was time to capitalize, we sure did. That's the big in for me. That is Shane, the main brains, with the execution help from Russ to DK and the whole thing. All right. It wasn't all roses. We're not Pollyannas. There are some outs. Let's get to the first out. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, we were saying, hey, Alton Robinson. Is it Alton or Alton? Alton or Alton? Alton?
Alton. You can call me Alton.
Yeah, okay. Alton, you could call me Alton. Alton and the Chipmunks. Okay. So anyway, Alton Robinson, a couple of weeks ago, we're like, man, this guy's got to play more. But he's, his pass disruption, his PFF grade's amazing for on 3rd downs, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Sometimes it might be a bit of careful what you wish for. Like, I want Alton Robinson to be awesome. Now he missed a bad sack where he had a complete free run, right? So that's like quarter 2. Again, we're down 7-0. I think there's about 11 minutes to go. And he comes off the edge untouched and somehow just can't bring down Jimmy G. Like, he tries to get him around the neck. Jimmy G squirrels out. Okay. Not great. You get a free pass against a pretty immobile quarterback. You gotta take the dude down and take the sack. Didn't happen, and whatever. I'm actually way more concerned about what I saw throughout the rest of the day, for the most part, in the run game. Alton Robinson, a lot of times was out in the wash. And I realized sometimes that was Trent Williams, and I get that. That dude's a big man. You're not going to beat that guy too often. There were just plays where it's like making Sermon look like Emmitt Smith. And if you follow the analogy, it's because, it's not that Emmitt Smith wasn't great, an all-timer, but the blocking was tremendous. There was like a 9-yard rush, with a minute to go in the first quarter. And Alton's on the right-hand side. He is so washed out of the play, so turned around. The holes that they were blowing through there, they were just freaking huge. So my alarm bells go off and my out goes off and says, Alton Robinson in the run game right now, I don't think he's very good at stopping the run. And that is a hard thing to say, but I wanted to see what you saw out there from number 98.
Well, he didn't have a great game. Alton didn't. And the stats bear that out too. Had a missed tackle on the day. You mentioned that sack that he should have had. I don't know if they count that as the missed tackle, but it very well could be.
Should be.
And you have to really point the finger at somebody when it comes to the amount of yards that they gave up on the ground, especially on that defensive line. And I think Alton has to be the one that you point to. Now, that 49ers offensive line is really good.
Yep.
And so it's tough to point out where, okay, he's obviously he was overmatched though, and you do want more from him, but not a very good day overall. And 41 yards rushing for Trey Lance, 89 yards rushing for Trey Sermon. I think if they do a better job of, if they just do a better job of play calling on the San Francisco side, this game turns out quite a bit differently. And I think they had an opportunity to take advantage of the Seahawks in this one area, and we're lucky that they didn't do it more.
Yeah, I felt that, I liked the effort was really good. Once the offense got going, the defensive effort was really good all game long. So, not to kill Robinson too badly. He did make a couple of nice plays too. And with that, I did feel like we got a little lucky, and I know it's part defense. We just stepped up, but they lost their kicker and then all of a sudden they're missing field goals. They're contemplating extra points versus 2 points at certain situations where normally you wouldn't make these decisions. So I felt like we got a little lucky there. And of course, Cannon did us many, many favors, 2 or 3 specifically throughout the day, where either allowed us to get better field position when we should have been pinned. And of course the muff punt, that was just very, very bad on him. So we'll see if that dude, stays in the NFL much longer after that game, unfortunately. So I did feel like luck was on our side. However, we certainly capitalized that, and we made our own luck. I want to flip this thing over. I got a great little play back on the inside of the ledger that I don't think you're going to hear about anywhere else except for here on 3 In, 3 Out. All right. So early quarter 3, Brandon, we like to wet the canvas, right? The liquid white Bob Ross canvas wetting. Early quarter 3, the Niners' first drive. So we know it's 7-7. Niners are moving the ball again, right? They get the ball. They're coming out. They're at their own 47-yard line. And this is when, if you recall what's happening at this point. All of a sudden, Trey Lance is in. All of a sudden, it's all these read options. And again, it's Sermon, big run, 15-yard clip, 9-yard clip. It's a first down, 7 yards on first down to set up a 2nd and 3. Then they run Sermon to the right-hand side. Once again, they are running right at Alton, running right at him. I think they saw something like, yep, we could just pick on this all day long. And they did to some extent. But on that particular play, so on this 2nd and 3, you get eyebrows. You get Rasheem Green crashing down the right-hand side. He sees the tackle and the guard pull, and he just commits. He just 100% commits down the line. Now, sometimes it's going to burn you. Sometimes, if Trey keeps that and goes around the bend, we might be having a different conversation here. However, he didn't. Handed off to Sermon. Rasheem Green tracks Sermon down from behind for this big tackle for a loss. And actually on that play, I got to give some kudos back to Robinson. He played his position very well there. And he just blocked up the hole, and it allows Green to come around with his eyebrows and like lasso him like carnage and bring him down for the tackle for a loss. It was a huge play to set up a 3rd down. That's when Lance tries to run the ball himself. I think it's Ryan Neal who smacks him, and they got to pump the ball away to start the second half. Rasheem Green, that is a under the radar underdog type play that I love to pull out of the 3 Ins and the on the positive raging side of the ledger here. That's the in, Brandon. Rasheem Green, his eyebrows, making a play down the line to make it 3rd down. That's the in.
Do you think that Rasheem Green himself made more of the play, or his eyebrows? Like, do you give it a ratio?
Yes. 80-20 symbiote.
Okay. Yeah, Rasheem on this play, and I'm glad you called out Robinson for being there on the tackle too, especially after he gets the out. So yes, the fact that he can share in a little bit of an in along with Green and his eyebrows, a trio of players. Maybe it's 2% for Alton, but yeah, Green on the day, 3 total pressures on the quarterbacks. He did not miss any tackles, unlike Robinson, and also 2 stops on the day. So a pretty good day for Green, not among the top defenders, kind of in the middle, but still one of those plays where you look at and you say, well, this could have made the difference because it brought up 3rd down. And then on that 3rd down, I think the secondary was doing a good job of covering once they allowed actually Lance to look downfield and consider a potential throw. And it worked out well for the Seahawks to get them off the field early on in that 3rd quarter.
Yeah, and we had to stop the excitement that was Trey Lance. Now he went on to stop that, all on his own a couple times later, like throwing a ball at Kittle's feet a couple times. Turns out he doesn't seem to be a very good thrower of the ball, which is usually helpful when you're playing quarterback. But hey, let the rookie progress, I suppose. But the buzz was in Levi Stadium. It was the button flies were happening. People were getting jazzed. You could feel the energy of, well, Jimmy G's quote unquote hurt, whatever. And it shut it down right away. And it seemed to really smother it before it got going. So that's why I love calling that one out. All right, we're going to flip
He had a little bit of a problem hitting those short passes. He didn't have a problem hitting a wide open Deebo Samuel for a huge touchdown.
Yeah, well, he almost did though, right? It wasn't it was half a duck. Number 2, it wasn't like it was a very good pass. I mean, like, I'm not saying I could get the ball there, but I could probably have gotten the ball there. I think I could throw a ball that far still. I'm pretty sure. So I don't give. I know that the fantasy people are looking at this like, oh, what's his floor? Did you watch the game? Like his floor is bad. It's bad. I know he's going to run a little bit, but his floor is he's yanked as soon as Jimmy G is healthy because Jimmy G was more effective. That's right. You just let it ring out of Jimmy G being, yeah. That's probably the only time I'll ever say Jimmy G was more effective without saying something about his handsomeness, right? To throw it in there. All right. So we are back on the sober yin, not the fun side, the outside. Okay. This happened a couple times, Brandon, but it's quarter 3, 7-7, about 6:15 to go in the game, and we're driving. We are driving. We are at the San Francisco 18-yard line. This looks like a good drive. Collins is touching the ball. Carson had back-to-back runs on this drive and picked up a 1st down. Collins just had more touches, really moving the ball well. It's looking really good. And then like for what seems like the 19th time in the game, we try yet another wide receiver screen. This time it's a little wide receiver screen to Lockett. And it's just like if I could praise formation and praise Waldron before, that I've got to hammer him here. I don't think Russ checked down into this. Russ did a lot of checking down and checking into other things.
I think the play to Alex Collins where he picked up 28 yards it may have been a check down. It wasn't set up as a screen, but he had all kinds of room over on that left side for that.
Oh yeah, that wasn't a screen. That was just go out of the backfield and get open, like a little, maybe not a wheel, but you get the gist. It was definitely, because if it was a screen, it would have been minus 2 yards. That's how I know. But this one to Lockett is like, I don't know what it is about our screen game, whether it's to Disley or Metcalf. Like on this drive, we got lucky. If you remember, we had a left side wide receiver screen to Metcalf that should have been stopped for like -3 yards, but Mosley blew a tackle and, Metcalf goes for 9. And that's when Collins picks up the 1st down. Then they just do this. They do this wide receiver screen to Lockett. It's over to Disley's side. There's 3 DBs over there. Disley tries to get to like the deepest guy, and Lockett is immediately hit by the 2 closest DBs, like within a half a second. I'm just like, K-Lastima, hands on head. What is it about this team that we cannot screen to save our lives, Brandon?
It is, whether it's setting up the blocks, whether it's standing with flat feet waiting for the ball to get there. We see that problem too. once the ball is in the air, is it illegal to run toward the ball to receive it? Is that because I feel like our receivers treat it as if, okay, the ball's in the air. I just got to wait here until it comes here and then I can start running. Is it so hard to run and catch at the same time? Because it feels like it is watching this team.
And I just wonder, like, it's been a while since we were a good screening team, but we have done it before with Russ. It's not like we never did it. There were some Marshawn Lynch years and other backs where we screened pretty well. I don't think we were ever like a top team, but then I'm watching the Sunday night game and I'm watching like Mac Jones execute beautiful screens, like really, really good screens, convoys of dudes, people fooled out of their shorts, like free runners. And there it goes. And they're up the field for 15 plus yards. It's just frustrating. In one sense, I'm glad we're trying it. In another sense, I want to die inside when I see us run a screen. I don't want any more screens. It's just not working.
It's not. I'm ready for it to be over, and I'm ready to stop talking about screens.
Okay. All right, we are back on the very fun, the very raging side, and there was a player out there, man. I'll just preface this by saying, in many ways, and we'll talk about this on the last out, but in many ways, we had players across the board who I think are borderline NFLers, borderline dudes, and it's difficult to watch some key positions and key times where we're using borderline NFLers. Then on this it's 7-0. Again, this is all happening early. Quarter two, it's early quarter two, about 14-20 to go. It's a 3rd and 15 from the Seahawks 30. This is just after Jordan Brooks got his sack, right? He just blows through the middle, gets a beautiful sack. We're pumped up. Here we go. It's a tight end screen to Kittle. And if you go back and watch this play, you don't really notice at first that there's a dude standing over the center, like right the nose guard, just standing over center. Ball gets hiked. He sprints into a zone, like he's just back into the right, sprints into a zone area. He reads that it's a screen, dissects it immediately. He makes a beeline for the ball. And now the most important thing here is he's so aggressive. He is so on it that both O-linemen who are out there, that convoy, both try to block him. That frees up Reed. Reed comes in, makes Kittle hesitate, and then number 26, who was the guy, he's the protagonist here. He from behind catches Kittle, and it's 4th and 8, and they got to try that long field goal. Where if it's like 4th and 2, 4th and 3 with a punter kicking, they're probably not trying a field goal. They're probably going for it. They missed the field goal. The hero of this story is, of course, Ryan Neal. That is a huge in. He, not only in that play, but Brandon, he felt like a difference maker to me. We were better at the screen, defending the screen game and other stuff because of number 26, Ryan Neal. Big in.
Yes, a big in for Ryan Neal, and maybe a little bit of a micro in. And I feel like Pete was sure to call this out, that this was a scheme thing that Ken Norton Jr. had planned for this game.
Nice.
And they wanted to use Ryan Neal on George Kittle. We saw it in multiple times throughout the day where Neal, he did well covering Kittle. And yeah, there was a 7-yarder on this one. There was another moment where, he was all over Kittle to where he couldn't, there was no chance to even throw to Kittle in that situation. So Ryan Neal had a big impact on this game. And I just thought it was nice that Pete wanted to show a little bit of love. He probably heard some of the talk coming from Ken Norton Jr. over these past 2 games and wanted to say, hey, this idea here came from Ken, and it worked out real well against this 49ers team.
Well, then I have requests. I have a simple request. Can he just go cover Higbee? Yeah, I realize Higbee's not Kittle, but Thursday night, can we get the Ryan Neal? We were faster with, and the other dudes out there. Sidney Jones. Yeah. Sidney Jones made a bad play. Cool. Yes. Sidney Jones gave up some stuff. Cool. He also contested a heck of a lot more balls. He also wasn't 5 yards off of dudes when they were catching the ball. So if he was giving up a touchdown or a catch, he was right there. They were much, much more difficult because he was more aggressive. So Can we get more of that heading into Thursday and not go back into some, protective cocoon? If that's Ryan Neal on Kittle, well then, Brandon, I want Ryan Neal on Higbee. Calling for it.
Put Ryan Neal on all the tight ends. One of my concerns through these first few weeks is that Jordan Brooks hasn't been great against tight ends. Jamal Adams hadn't been great against tight ends. Now, we did see a nice play, and I know it's going to be called out in the From the Flock segment, so we can get to that there. But we really haven't seen solid coverage on tight ends, and that's what had you worried on a game where they've got an all-pro, and he's really good at catching these screen passes and just rolling over guys, and that was a big concern going into this game. So the fact that they had a neutralizer for that with a guy like, now, are other teams going to be able to find an answer for that now that they've seen it on tape against Kittle? Now they know what, maybe if there's some tendencies there from Ryan Neal, I don't know. But until they can find out a way to get by him, I do like what I saw from Neal in this past game.
Love it. Love it. That's the big in. All right, we got one more out. Hit the thingy. We'll get to the out. Let's do it. Okay, so when we win, we got to start with an in, which means we got to end with an out. But wait, just hold on. If you're new,
there's more.
There's more. Hold on to your horseshoes. But the last out for me, Brandon, is I was hinting at it earlier that we got dudes who play too much, who I think are borderline NFLers. I'm not giving the out to these guys. And at the same time, I don't want to see Freddie Swain returning punts. Don't want to see it. Figure it out. There's got to be somebody better to do that job. I don't want to see Travis Homer in a 2-minute drill. You think Travis Homer is a good blocker? He ain't that good of a blocker. He's not that good of a blocker. Put in Collins, put in Carson. You are taking so much talent off of the field. When it's Travis Homer, you become way more non-multidimensional. Let's follow that logic for a second. And it's just, you're dumbing down possibilities with dudes like this. Now the out, I am not a huge DJ Dallas fan returning kicks. Just not. So on this particular play, it's 7-0 Niners. It's the kickoff right after they make it 7-0. So early. He receives the ball at the 2-yard line. Now, I'll give him credit. He does the one thing that I always say a kickoff returner must do. What's that, Brandon?
Run right up the field, north and
run
south.
Run straight as fast as you can, right? Just go north and south. So I give him credit for that. Now, where that breaks down for me is in the agility, quickness, and one cutability of this guy as our kickoff returner. It is perfectly blocked. He doesn't get... There's nobody around him for about 30 yards. Again, thank you. You went north and south. Great. He has to beat a punter. Not even the kickoff guy. Now I realize punters cover too. Punters are people too. And they may even cover more often than a kickoff guy, whatever. So he's got to go beat a punter. He puts on like a really lame move and just gets tackled rather easily, where he had space, where he had momentum. And it just showed to me, it's like, dude, you got one guy to beat. It's the punter, and you didn't have a shot of beating him one-on-one. This is like a one-on-one drill, not a shot. So I'm not going to kill the guy in a win. I just want to point out that can D. Eskridge and can Trey Brown and some other dudes who have that kind of ability, can they get back out here? I know they're not healthy, and DJ's healthy. I get that, but I want it to end. I want dudes with one cut ability who could take it to the house, because that was a houseable kickoff. And he got the minimum, the least amount he possibly could have gotten was gotten. He's got to wear the out.
I was so the reason why I'm laughing is because I was so frustrated by this too. The hole that he had to run through was so large and perfectly set up. And yes, and okay, maybe because Wisnowski is an Aussie guy, that he has a rugby background, and maybe that's why he wasn't afraid to put his head down and get into the tackle. But the fact that there was almost zero effort that I could see, any visible effort, whether it was a head shake, any kind of try and fake his way around the punter and pick up a few yards. No, I felt like he made the decision that he was just going to go through the dude, and that it didn't work.
I actually think it's a little bit worse in the sense that I think he does try to put a juke on. It's just not there. It's like a little right to left juke he tries to do. And he literally just like goes right into the tackle, which is just a punter putting his head down, right? That was the tackle. The tackle was a grown man just crumpling down and putting his shoulder down. Now, not a terrible way to tackle somebody, but certainly not a form.
It was a better effort than I saw from Sebastian Janikowski when Seabass was doing kickoffs for Seattle.
In fairness, Janikowski had drank his 8th Zima that kickoff, just on that very kickoff.
Just on that one.
Yeah. You know, he loves his Zima, the old Seabass. So,
okay. Well, hey, you know what? While we're talking about DJ Dallas, though, was it not him that was responsible for that forced fumble?
Yes, it was. Hey, I'm not saying the dude can't play any special teams. You know, you want to go down there and tackle and force fumbles. Go at it. Go do your thing. And for what it's worth, I'd rather see DJ Dallas than Travis Homer in a 2-minute drill. Like that's fine. You could relegate Homer and put Dallas in there. I do think he's actually more dynamic and pass blocks just as well as far as I've seen. But that's okay. So, but yes, some love back to him, taking me out.
Some love back to him, because now I wouldn't make it an inable play, even though I do think that this may be the point where the game turned.
Oh yeah.
I don't think without that particular fumble that we see the Seahawks go. I mean, we didn't see any 80-yard drives except for the first one where they picked up the first touchdown. The second half, they were dealing with short fields. Big credit to the defense, big credit to special teams. But that moment there, if they don't get that turnover in that moment, the lead to that amazing spin play by Russ to get the touchdown, then I don't know if this game is at least going to be a whole lot closer if they don't get that play.
Oh yeah. I mean, 100%. It just, you know, I always find it funny when I think it was Hustle Chilson. I think that's his Twitter handle. I think that's his name, maybe not the handle, but he's a very good follow out there. And like last week, he was saying something about like, you know, I think he put out a poll or was asking the question about like Percy Harvin's impact on the team, or like, I think it was like, what was the worst trade, right? It was the worst trade, right? You know, Jimmy or Percy or I think Jamal, right? Yeah. So, and he was surprised that people were giving Percy Harvin love. And I'm in the boat of, I know it didn't work out and we won the Super Bowl, and Percy Harvin had a great, not a good, he had a great Super Bowl. And it's not just the kickoff return to seal the deal. It's the end arounds, it's the speed, it's what he brought to the game, why I love Dieskridge so much. And he's like, oh, Percy didn't even impact the game. I'm like, how, in what universe do you live in to say he didn't impact the game? I mean, he literally took the second half kickoff back. Yes, it was on the verge of a blowout, but that's what made it a blowout.
Yeah.
And the first half, he was the best player on the field besides defensive players. So it shook me the wrong way. And Hustle Chilson, I think, is one of the better Seahawks follows out there. That one just irked me. I forget what you're talking about, Brandon, but it's something along those lines where I'm irked.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore either. Let's close this out. We have more ins to talk about.
We do. So we only have the one rule. The one rule is when we start with an in. However, when we win the 2020 Innovation of the Year, won the coveted award. I have the trophy back here. You can't see it because it's a little too dark. But the thing is, we made the innovation that when we win, we not only get, to start with an in, but we also get one extra one. We call it the brand in. I volley it to you. You get to take it away. I get to sit back and just, say 40 love. So hit at it. Serve it at me, Buck.
All right. Well, you left a lot on the table for this game. And so I'm going to try and cram in as many things into this brand in, but I can do it really easily by going to one series on defense. It was my favorite defensive series. It was the last one right before the half where the 49ers had the football. It was under 2 minutes. The Seahawks, they had just got the touchdown with DK Metcalf to tie it up at 7-7, and 49ers and Jimmy G, they get the ball back with 1:54 left. They run 2 plays, they get the first down, but then the defense does quite a few things in this 3-play series that I think were things that we had complained about and ultimately got fixed, and they were all on display in this 3-down series. On 1st and 10, you had Puna Ford recognizing the screen, and Jimmy just has to throw it at his feet. Puna comes through the line and all of a sudden recognizes that, the running back's behind him, and he does a great job of it's hard getting that guy to, it's a lot of poundage to try and move on a dime, and he does it. And Jimmy goes, okay, well, I guess this is just, I got to blow it up, throws it at Puna's feet.
And just parking it right there real quick, again, I always love people to say, hey, go back and watch that play. The athleticism for a big man to be moving one way, halt, that kind of put all the weight on like the right hip thigh area and then just dart the other way after recognizing it. 100%, like really, really athletic play for a big guy. So great start. Keep rolling.
There you go. An in-worthy play in its own right there.
Totally.
But then on 2nd down, you got DJ Reed. He's back on the right side because Sidney Jones is playing on the left. And Reed is just physical on this play. He comes up, Sherfield tries to, run into him and push him off. And Reed he sticks right to him. And then Sherfield wasn't able to make the catch because Reed was right there playing physical, matching the physicality with the 49ers wide receiver there. And I think on that play too, not only did you have Reed being physical, but there was something that the defense did a little bit different in this game. And I think maybe it played out this way because they had moments where they had more defensive backs on the field than normal. Neal getting so many snaps. And on the same play, you had Adams coming in underneath, just charging the center of the field. So they were really trying to take away the middle of the field from Jimmy G in this game, just knowing that that's where he would like to pick the team apart. And you had the interception by Diggs earlier on, them doing the same thing where he cuts under the route where Jimmy's going to Kittle. And Adams was closing in fast on that too. So whether it was the physicality of Reed or Adams, maybe feeling a little bit of Adams coming in on that play too, they can't make the catch on that. So again, back-to-back plays now that we're talking about.
Yes. And there's one more, correct? There's a third. Let's try
down.
Hit the third. I'll reserve my comments for the whole thing.
Yes, because 3rd down is a spot where you would expect that Jimmy is looking for his all-pro tight end, George Kittle. And the way they played Kittle on 3rd down, they had Bobby. He comes over and just gives a little bump to Kittle. And so it sends him to a little bit of a misdirection. And then Ryan Neal, who we talked about earlier, he carries Kittle up the seam and takes Kittle out of that play. Jimmy has to dump it off underneath to Juszczyk. So not only did Bobby give the bump to Kittle, then Bobby's there to clean up, make the tackle on Juszczyk, and shut down they get a little bit of a game, but they got to punt it away.
Lovely. The trifecta overture here. The word of the day on defense was physicality. We brought our hats, whether that's Nick Bellore, who we didn't even talk about, who took a soul, right? He took Ayuk's soul on a punt return, whether that's Adams lodging it, dislodging a ball, which we'll talk about from the flock. We were the more physical team.
It didn't seem like it was going to be that way through the first 5 drives when the Seahawks are going 3 and out, because it looked like that 49ers defensive line was just going to have their way with the Seahawks offensive line all day.
Yeah. And we definitely get on our Hawks and sometimes our inability to adjust. And I don't know I'm not an X's and O's guy. It's not my thing per se. Something changed, something changed, I think, before half. And then really on the defensive line, we definitely got tighter, but I really think the Trey Lance swap was probably the biggest factor. Bottom line is they're a better team with Jimmy G. I'm not saying he's good. He's mediocre, but they're better.
I think in 49ers fan defense, which, gosh, I hate being the voice of 49ers fans, but gross. I think that the expectation is that Lance is going to be the future, so you want to see that play out, and so I think there's there's kind of that push of, well, more experience is going to be better for Lance, so why don't you put him out there? But then, there's the football guys that are always saying, well, yeah, it's not always that experience is good experience if you're getting beat up and you don't quite know where to go with the ball in all the situations. That guys like that, they can learn on the bench. So it's a very difficult. I don't know where I would be in that camp. You know what? I'd probably be in the Jimmy G camp, because I was in the camp that that thought Russell Wilson should sit out for a few games, because I was so sold on the defense that they needed a veteran in Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn, yeah, and I think I just watching the two dudes play. The difference
was that Russ it was much more ready.
Russ showed out right away. Now he wasn't all the way there, of course, but he was showing out that he had some legit capability right away, and the leadership skills too. So, hey, it is that's their problem. That's their problem. We got our brand in. We get the extra in. We get the extra cranny. You did a great job bringing the flavor with the trifecta. Love the call outs. We'll roll right into the MVC, the most valuable cranny, very quickly. I got to choose this one. We send this little award to the player's locker. Now that it's I'm not going to say it's a post-COVID world, but now that we're back to some normalcy, the award goes. You'll probably see it in their locker later this year. Just look up. I'm sure it's there. I'm giving this one to Ryan Neal. That play again, to bust up a screen, take Kittle down from behind. The moment they did it in was huge. In my opinion, kept the game at 7-0, which was really all we needed. So Ryan Neal, the MVC, most valuable cranny. How do you feel about the MVC? You like it?
Oh, it's going to look beautiful in Mr. Neal's locker.
It really is. It really that sounds like a good album, Mr. Neal's locker.
Yeah, it's right up there with I guess Mr. Jones isn't the album name. Are there any good Mr. titles for albums?
Mr. Brownstone, also not an album. Also not an album.
We can think of plenty of song names.
Yeah,
Mr.
Yeah, sure. There's Mr. That's also not an album, but that's okay. You don't mind that. And as we roll,
I wasn't prepared for this discussion. Let's move on.
We are moving on. We got one more segment left. It's called From the Flock. And before we get into the nooks and crannies that you provided, I'd like Brandon to provide you, other folks who may not know yet, how you can get involved in the weekly broadcast and the way you can follow, subscribe, the whole thing already, because you really need to increase your Hawkra. Brandon, hit it.
Yes, if you want to be a part of this group that we call the Flock, and we have a Discord group that we get together, watch the game with on game day. Going to be doing that for the Rams. We do it every single week. And yeah, you can be a part of that group by going to patreon.com/flock, and $3 a month gets you into that group. And we have a channel specifically for 3 in, 3 out. That's where a lot of these are coming in from. And, when Facebook's down, this gives a great alternate method to make sure that you get your voice heard.
Yeah, and speaking of Facebook down, if you put this is the day, right? So you'll know what day this is. We're recording this on Monday. Facebook and Insta and WhatsApp, the whole thing. It's been down all day. So everybody that puts your 3 ins and outs into Facebook, into the Ring of Honor, I'm sorry, but I cannot retrieve them. So there's that. But better reason to get into the Discord. Fork over the $3. It's worth your money. It increases the Hawkra. And of course, if you're just out on Twitter, tweet at me or Brandon, hashtag it 3i30, and we'll start there. We had Bailey Liborn. So at Bailey Liborn out on Twitter, they wrote, can I get an early in for all the reports of Jones getting the start this week? Which, listen, say what you will about Jones making a few mistakes. Mr. Jones and me, I was okay with him, Brandon. I thought he played markedly better than we've seen Trey Flowers play in a long, long time.
I don't know if I can go markedly better, but it was at least a push with some upside, and I will take that if we get better production from Reed on the right side, and then just, maybe a slightly plus version of Flowers on the left side. I think that the team can work with that.
I like it.
Jeff Scott at Jeff Scott AZ12. I'm glad I got to say that because you screw that up every time.
Scott has, is that right?
In Jamal Adams' identification and hustle on the trick play to Kittle to break it up. And in we'd like to see when other teams' D-lines shift, Wilson to hike the ball right then while they are off balance and concentrating on their own movement and getting set.
Yeah, nice job, Scott Taz. Very much appreciate that. Out on the Twitterverse, we had Josh DeHuman in the Discord. He had a couple here. He's given some love to Adams on the coverage of Kittle, giving some love to Sidney Jones for the first start. He did call out the offensive line, which we didn't talk a lot about. And, especially the first half, it did get ugly. There was just the third down breakdowns, the third down, just jailbreaks. And it's like, oh boy.
From Dwayne Brown giving up
sacks. I know he's got Bosa, and Bosa gets his fourth sack, and Bosa's a very good end. I get it. But I don't love our best guy looking like a turnstile. That kind of hurt. However, I'll finish with Josh's in. He does talk about Nick Bellore basically taking a soul with Ayuk with the helmet flying off. So yes, we got to love that from Josh.
Well, I should probably mention Josh is out because we did see Trey Flowers against the 49ers, and it was because of a holding penalty on special teams. So Flowers making his presence known even when he's not out on defense.
On a fair catch.
Design Pete's Beach House comes in with an in. Brooks, B-Wags, Neal, and Diggs playing outside scheme when they need to.
Yeah, they all played. Again, we looked faster. We looked more aggressive. The dudes that she is naming are part of the reason why. We didn't really mention Quandre Diggs too much besides the awesome interception. He played very well. Diggs played by far his best game of the year. So something in the formula, and I realized it wasn't a great quarterback, but they were just on the dudes faster regardless. They covered the middle of the field better regardless of who was QB. They were just more aggressive from Jump Street. Amy also had, so Design Pete's Beach House, which is Amy. She's given some love to Colin, saying running well when we need it. Great way to phrase it, because again, I love Chris Carson. I man to man, person to person, Alex Collins was the better back on Sunday, and that's okay. That's actually great.
Yeah, that's nice that they have that ability to make that shift, and it leads right into Jake Burdine's double in. Penny falls off the depth chart. Yes, I think Penny at number 3. It's clearly between Collins and Carson for sharing touches at this point.
But I don't understand. Penny Hart? Who's he talking about there? Who's Penny Hart?
Rashad Penny, obviously. He's following it up with Collins running well.
Who's that? Who's that person?
I think he's still on the team. Rashad Penny?
I'm not sure. However, we do got one from Golden Hawk. That's you. You talked about this.
And I already talked about this.
Yeah, it's the inn. So it was the Puna Inn. You talked about it, which is amazing. I'll go right
I wanted to make sure I didn't forget.
Yeah, now we got it twice. It was the place so nice. We had to talk about it twice. Speaking of twice, we got Car, K-A-R in. Russ making the needed adjustments when we needed it most. And by needed adjustments, we mean freaking miracles of nature and on heaven and earth, because some of those plays were just freaking, that touchdown to Swain. Just go watch it again, and then go watch it again and watch it one more time. It's just ridiculous.
Well, while you're watching that too, watch the run by Alex Collins to get into the end zone, because and maybe this is coming up too, but not to take anything away, but when you talk about adjustments from Russell Wilson, you could see that he audibled into that call for Collins to take that run, and he made the most of it, scoring a touchdown on that play.
Before we go to the next from the flock, and it's because we're getting to the line with 20 something freaking seconds. We did struggle a little bit there, where a couple times, but
there were some times where you said, "Ooh, what's going on with the tempo right now? This isn't good."
But for the most part, we're at the line early, and Russ can make these calls and read what's happening. He'll do his hard count, which for some reason he's not very good at. He could see a little bit of movement, and then he'll make an adjustment. And exactly on that touchdown to Collins, which is a great run. That's a perfect example. Nice call.
Beast Mode 24 in the Discord. Collins taking over when Carson has a weaker game. Clearly, this was a theme.
Sure, absolutely. He also talked about Flowers finding a way to disrupt the game. We talked about that, getting the hold. He also says out to Dallas, just running into 3 defenders during the kickoff after the Samuel touchdown. So that's another kickoff one. I clipped this out. So that's, if we're talking about a dude being this kind of not great at kickoff returns, if we can notice that, it's kind of like Rocky IV. If I could change and you could change, everybody could change. So come on, Pete, make the freaking change.
Josh Nahouman gives an in to Daryl Taylor with another sack, an in to Al Woods with the pass block. And yeah, how about Thigh Arms coming through the line, getting his mitt on the ball, getting his mitt on, I think that was Garoppolo that was in the game at that point too. And yeah, a big moment for Big Al right there.
Yeah, we had Jake Burdine again with the in for Neal, putting the boom on Lance. I think that was the play where Lance tries to run it up the gut, and that's the third down we were talking about earlier. And you were just talking about the pass breakup ability, so take it away with the next one.
Yeah, the Raging Yang, not a Raging Yang, the Raging Yang in the Discord. The return of the pass breakup. We saw nine pass breakups. And no, that's not German for no. That is the number 9. That's how many the Seahawks had on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a return to that. And I go back and forth, and I follow different folks on Twitter who are like, well, it's just it's a consequence of the quarterback play. But then I rewatched the game, and I'm like, maybe, partly, maybe. But the bigger part is we're right on the dudes. We are meeting them at the ball, at the point of contact. And that's the bigger piece, and we're getting our mitts up at the line like Thigh Arms did. So Jeremy Evergreen comes in. He gives the in to Jamal Adams. Again, the pass breakup on Kittle in the end zone. We love that. He also talks about defensive back coaching. Jeremy was seeing a little too much of the big ass cushions, as he puts it. Now, I will say this though. Yes, there was some of that, but then I think that got progressively better as the game went on too. And I still saw a heck of a lot less cushion than we did against the Vikings.
Yeah, I think we're still going to see moments of that just based on the defense, the type of zone defense that you see them mixing it in. It's just, we want to see more physical play, and for us to expect it to all go away, that's not going to happen. But yes, I think we did tend to see good things though when they were really being physical with those receivers. And Delwyn comes in with an in, says a cleaner game, no big game wrecking penalties. And really, game wrecking penalties, we saw more on the 49ers side of the ball, and that was nice to see.
Yeah, it did feel cleaner after the first 5 3-and-outs, which we're not going to get a chance to do that against every team. We also have to realize that if we try that kind of bupkis Thursday night, it very well might be 17-0. It might be 10-0. And at that point, as the great Yogi Berra had said, it's getting late early if that happens. So we fall down that many. So let's not do that. Let's not do 5 3-and-outs.
You know what this reminded me of, though, and this might have been the adjustment that the Seahawks needed on offense. We didn't see a whole lot of watching this game. There were a lot of complaints from Seahawks fans that our defensive linemen were getting held when going after the quarterback, and we saw it a lot. We saw a lot of holding calls that could have been called. Could it be that that maybe our guys were holding well too? And the officials weren't calling holding on the offensive line on either side of the ball in this game. I don't know. It could be that. I want to think that the 49ers are just cheaters and should have been called out for all their holding penalties.
Dunlap was held for like 17 seconds straight on one particular play. Like it was literally 79 seconds straight.
And then held on to as Lance ran outside the pocket.
It was so remarkably, obvious. It was like, and this is again us watching it real time at home. Be like, it's a hold. You're just looking for the laundry as the play goes up the field. You're like, how in the world is that not a hold? And they showed the replay, and he's literally held like from the moment he gains the edge on the tackle. There, it was so bad, so blatant. So yeah, there was quite a bit of that. All right, we got quite a bit here from Tim Moon also. Giving some love to the Collins run. He also is calling DK out. He's like, hey, he's got the outs for the drop number 1, drop number 2. That's another thing I saw on Twitter. Oh, the ball down the right-hand side. That ball was underthrown. Okay. Was it perfectly in stride? Did DK have to slow down a little bit? Yes, he had to slow down a little bit. The ball still dropped in his hands. Listen, DK had an okay game. Could have been a bet. He catches those 2 balls. Could be a good game going 6 for 8 instead of 4 for 8. He has the drops. We talked about this in the preseason with DK, first he giveth, then he taketh away. He's going to drop some balls. That's just DK Metcalf. He's also going to score some touchdowns.
And in from Frost to the secondary. Coverage got tighter and tighter as the game went on. 9 passes defensed, an interception by Diggs. Huge improvement over what we saw the last 2 weeks.
Very nice. Cue the Enter Sandman. Cue the finale here. Our Mariano Rivera coming all the way from Hong Kong Hawk with our house. Fits like a comfortable pair of jeans. He's got this beautiful imagery here of Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, which that emblem on the middle of that field needs to be a Seahawk. Somebody needs to superimpose that, because
when you say it's a beautiful image, I feel like, you get rid of the color red, you get rid of the 49ers emblem, the fact that, you just put the Seahawks branding on the stadium, and yes, then the beauty, it would enhance the beauty of this image.
Yeah, then maybe make it like a stadium that people take pride in. That doesn't look like it was made in 1978, although it was built a couple of years ago. Like modern stadiums where they actually put money into a franchise they like, when they actually put them in the city they play in. Little things people do in other states that I guess they just can't get right in Northern California.
And I think that's a great way to close it out. With that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.